Audrey Brashich, our guest. Sexuality is healthy, sexualization is not, is what she's going to be talking at the general meeting at the YWCA. Everyone invited.
Yes.
Starts at 4:30.
On Thursday.
When you went to your pre-meetings about this, what were their concerns? Certainly multicultural, all of that.
We've been talking a lot about whether or not these issues are just for, a sort of audience that's only, like young, hip girls, or whether or not it does cross race, cultural barriers. But it's so difficult when you look at what each culture or each group, immigrant group, they have different ideas of what's beautiful, about what's okay. And I think in some ways that makes it even harder than when they're exposed to media onslaught.
Right, because in some cultures to be plump is good.
Exactly.
And it means that you're richer.
So those girls that are growing up with one foot in each side, they really have a lot to make sense of.
How does this shape a young boy's notion of how girls should be?
Oh, it's
or how women are?
It's so tricky and detrimental, because this is setting up for boys the idea of who they should date, what they should want their partners, their girlfriends, whatever it is, to look like. And it's so narrow, and it leaves out so many girls. And I think that boys are caught in a conflict too, because if you talk to teen boys or young boys, they know their girlfriends, their girls who are friends, are involved in sports and activities in school with them. And then they see these images of who they're supposed to want to like. And there's such a disconnect between the two. But, that's what they're told is sexy.
And when you grow up and you'll hear somebody say, if you don't have a boyfriend or something, well, you wasted the pretty.
Yeah.
Like on that guy you were going out with, so don't waste the pretty.
Right.
As if there's nothing else.
Exactly.
Like, how about the brain?
Yes.
Or the personality or the sense of humor?
And that, I think, is a message we need to drive home to boys from the start, because they're going to think that, they get through this early stage, and this is who they've been taught to look at, to like, to want. And if we don't start counteracting that, contradicting that early on, then there's almost no hope. We can do as much work with the girls if we want, but they're going to know that if they want a boyfriend.
Well, the boys grow up to be men, and some of them leave their aging wife for someone much, much younger.
Yes.
And probably prettier.
If you want to go off on this conversation, though, another time, there's Naomi Wolf, the author of The Beauty Myth, has written an article recently.
Oh, she has? And what's it about?
Talking about how she's noticing in her circle of friends now, so sort of late 40s, that when a man comes in with his sort of second wife, younger version, that there isn't that pressure and that fear among the women in the room anymore, that they're feeling comfortable enough in their own skin, instead of just be like, that's too bad, instead of feeling like, I wish I were that younger lady. So maybe that's a trend.
That is a trend. Well, it could be. And you embrace the person as a human and a woman, and a beautiful woman. And why not? And if Donald Trump picked her, he did. Because he's that kind of guy. And then we hear women of a certain age say, who would want a guy that only wants a woman between the ages of a guy who's 60 and only wants a woman between the ages of 20 and 30. Well, who would want him anyway?
I think what's happening there is
that sour grapes?
No, but I think women starting to realize, like their power is happening at a later age, that the power that you might have in your 20s is perhaps your sexy power, but you've got everything else for a long time. And that's where it's really at.
Well, I just read an article about younger men and older women. Suggesting that older women are very attractive to younger men because they do have presence and they've been successful. And younger men, isn't that good news?
I like that.
And it's not just Demi Moore and Ashton Kutcher, but that unlike men of our own age who go younger, like some younger men are actually not only liking, of course they would like, but turned on to women who are older.
That's great, and I hope
that means not seeing the wrinkles or the turkey neck or the moles or the spots.
Then I hope that those men in some ways are able to tell their younger brothers, their sons, whoever it is, what they're seeing.
And there's a part of me, going back to young girls, that suggests you're a kid. Be a kid.
Exactly.
Play, get messy.
All of this has aged the kids, they say getting older, younger, right? Like it's moved down the sort of lowest level of what's appropriate. And they are, like from age 8 then, or from age 7, they are almost teenagers. It's no longer 13 and up, it's now, 9 and 10 and up. And that's the problem. They're not getting to be kids.
Right.
And they certainly can't handle developmentally all of the rest of the stuff that goes on with that sexy image, like how they're supposed to act or what they're supposed to do. Sure, we can doll them up, which some parents do, some mothers do, you see the pageant circuits, etc. But that 8-year-old, that 9-year-old doesn't really know what message she's giving off, where that's going to lead her, and that's so dangerous.
Sure, we talked about this before. I think by my very presence alone, I deserve to be loved. Not only if I'm wearing a Gucci suit.
Yes.
Or Armani shoes.
Or flat abs.
Or flat abs. That's true. Like this gym obsession, and I think it's really good to work out, believe me, and eat well and all of that. So it's not about not doing the best for your body.
Of course.
It's if you can't bounce a penny on your stomach, you're not okay.
Yeah, you're basically worthless in terms of your appearance. That you just don't have all of the look. I mean, when I talk about it in my book and when I talk to girls, I say, the look today, it varies a little bit about what's demanded. There are some people that come in and have a slightly different look, but it's still about perfection and extreme grooming and the time and the money and the effort that it takes to get that perfect look. That's still what's there.
Sure, the time and the money.
Yeah.
And the effort, all of that. And imagine what you could do if you weren't doing all of that.
That's the thing. And especially if you're 9 and 10 years old, and if you were spending that time and that effort, that thought power on anything else, your developing interests, your passions, getting involved in something that's at school, where that could lead you, instead of starting this young and caring about that. And then when you've got the money, paying for all the expensive treatments.
So I so get it, like practice your piano.
Yeah.
In the long run, it'll serve you better.
I think so. I think so.
Than buying that blush.
Of course.
And it doesn't mean girls shouldn't wear makeup or anything like that. You're not saying that.
I'm not saying that. I actually don't advocate that whole idea of ban it all, keep it out of the house. It's not possible. I mean, that's their life. That's pop culture.
Yeah, Cleopatra did it.
Okay. Yeah. Like that's what they're around.
Sure.
There's room for it, but there's got to be something else offsetting it.
Yeah. Be the best you can be.
I think so. Thank you so much.
Nice to see you. Sexuality is healthy. Sexualization is not. That's Thursday at the YWCA. Audrey Brashich at 4:30.